everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel, and today we are talking about the Picket Fence STAMPtember 2024 limited edition exclusive Dancer Delivers Christmas. This amazing stamp set features a darling little girl, a couple of sweet deer, and of course the rooftop. Lots of sentiments as well. We're going to start by stamping the images from the stamp set on Hammermill 100-pound cardstock and coloring in with alcohol ink markers. I am using Olo markers to do my coloring today. Now, full disclosure, you may have seen all of the images stamped on one half sheet of paper, and now we just have the girl. I had my video camera off for the entire coloring of the most of this girl, I guess, not the entire thing, but most of it. So I re-stamped her and re-filmed this portion so you could see her come to life. And then we'll switch over to the other sheet of paper to finish it up. Now, she is absolutely darling and joy to color. If you love coloring, you're going to love the images. The deer just have the sweetest little faces. I just can't say enough great things about this set. I think you guys are going to love it. I, of course, wanted to create a scene card. I am a huge scene card fan. The images from this set, even though it is a standard smaller size set, really fill an entire card front, as you're going to see here. So I was able to easily limit how many other things go into it, but it still provides a phenomenal, beautiful finished product. So I am starting with her skin and hair. I generally do love starting with skin and hair because I feel like it makes the image come to life, and then we can start accessorizing, if you will. I am one who loved like paper dolls when I was a kid. Loved them. I mean, I probably would still love them because I just love that kind of thing so much. Or like the Barbie fashion plates. Man, I spent hours coloring. This coloring thing, not new for me. You guys are going to have to let us know down in the comments if you have been a lifelong coloring enthusiast as well. So I am using the Olo markers. For your convenience, I will list all of those marker colors down in the description below, kind of, listed out, by skin, hair, dress, so that it's easy to know what colors I used for what portions of the images in this video. Now, I decided to pull in a little bit of pink. I am a huge fan of red and pink together. I love them for Christmas, and I think it's going to create this really adorable dress for her. So the trim on her hat, her dress, and even her little striped tights, I am thinking pink. So I am doing this soft red, violet, pink color combination. I am outlining with my darker color, blending with the lighter tone or shade, and then I'm going back with the darker color and I'm adding in like some little dots. I want it to look like, that fuzzy, furry type of trim on her dress and on her hat. And I think that kind of adds to that feeling. We'll even go in with our white pen and add a little bit more detail when we're finished with this. So we're starting with that first, and then we're going to use some reds for her dress. And I purposely went with a lighter shade than what I typically use for red. So a lot of times for Olo markers, for example, I love to use a 1.5 and 1.7, which are going to really add some deep dark shading. I don't need that near as much, especially not for her dress. So I am going more with 0.5, 0.4, and 0.3. So it's going to be a much lighter red in this case. And I think it kind of helps lighten it all up. And I really loved how it turned out. Now I am going to use a little 1.5 to differentiate the bag slung over her shoulder against her dress, because I am going to do that in some reds as well. And I think I used some on the fireplace, or not fireplace, the chimney, but I can't quite remember. So when we get to that, we will see. Loving that. Look at her come to life. We're also going to do a little bit of red for her tights before we kind of switch over to the other image. Now, I thought her little boots looked like UGG boots, so we're going to do those in kind of the traditional neutral tones here in just a little bit. I think that's going to be really cute. So here's her bag. I did start with the same reds, but I am going to build that up. Like I started, and you can see it's almost a little pink compared to her dress, which I liked, but I did end up pulling in a little bit more darker color right there where the bag meets her dress. So you can really see that like there's some shadowing and shading right there. Now her bag is filled with all kinds of little teeny tiny presents, way too teeny tiny to try to shade any of those. So we're not even going to. We're going to grab some aquas and limey greens and bright pinks and purples, and we're going to color in the presents in her bag with just a single color. There is no sense in trying to shade any of that stuff. You'll drive yourself crazy. I also used a black jelly roll pen to add detail to her eyes so that her face would really, really pop. Then we're doing those brown neutrals, they're called O markers, so they're kind of in the orange color family, but these are definitely our neutrals, to color in her little UGG boots, making them nice and light, and of course the trim along the top and then the little balls hanging from them. I kept those a little lighter, and the soles of the boots are a little bit lighter as well. Super cute. She's totally coming to life, I think, as you can see, and she is going to be adorable. So let's just quickly switch over to the other images and let's color in our deer. Now I did color one of them off camera because they're both colored exactly the same. You can see the marker caps here on the screen, but I will list those down below for easy reference as well. And going in with my dark color first, then blending out with a mid-tone and finally a light shade. With Olo markers especially, any alcohol ink markers, but I have found as I have been using the Olos, this is really my preferred way of using them for the most part, is to definitely outline with my darkest, blend out with my mid-tone, and then finally add in that shading detail with my lightest. Aren't the faces on these reindeer just the cutest? I mean, you guys, they look like storybook images, and I'm a huge fan of that kind of look. I just think they're absolutely precious. Okay, so let's color in the accessories for our deer. So we've got harnesses, the holly berries and leaves. Yes, I know, I didn't realize that I hadn't colored in the toy bag on this image. The magic of video, we're going to kind of skip that. We don't need to watch it again, so you'll watch it magically come to life here in a second. But I'm kind of trying to do any of the red left on the deer. And the little collar and then the spots on the deer's backs, those were so teeny tiny. So instead of color or trying to color around them with my alcohol ink marker, I opted to just kind of color it in. And then when the alcohol ink marker was dry, I went ahead and went in with a white jelly roll pen and added that detail back in. Some little pink for their cheeks, the insides of their ears, the black jelly roll pen to really make their eyes shine and pop. And then I love a white pen detail if you want to add detail to clothing and accessories. So we're going to give her like a little red plaid dress. Doesn't have to be super duper precise. Just kind of gives that little illusion of the plaid. And then I am going to add in a few little white details, highlights, adding in some of the little white into the trim of her dress and of her hat, just tapping the pen against the paper for those little dots. And then of course, yes, the little highlights here and there. Then we're going to add in some green, kind of finish off our deer images. I think that's about all we had left was the little leaves here. And I love them. Look at how precious they are. So, so cute. Then we're going to use some green markers to color in some of the areas on our packages in the toy bag. So I did like a green on green. There's the magic of camera where now her bag is all colored in. And now we are going to color in the patch with greens. I am using like some blue-green aquas. So lots of limey green, aqua, some brighter pinks, even the pink that I used on her dress, but kind of more of a fuchsia pink, and even a little bit of purple, a little violet color here, just to make the toys in the bag really pop. Even a little bit of red for a couple of the bows. It is a Christmas card after all. So super cute. And now all we have left is the rooftop and the snow on the rooftop. This can be colored really easily. I know it's a big surface area. So at the beginning of the video, I was talking about how the images in such a small stamp set really fill a standard A2 card size base. That's because the rooftop is a nice substantial image. I don't know about you guys, but I love this image. There have been many times that I have looked for a rooftop image to go with a certain scene I've wanted to build. So this doesn't have anything else with it. That means you can totally mix and match it with other things that you maybe already have in your stash. So I think that this is a great stamp set, even if you just get it for that. I mean, but obviously the girl and the reindeer are super cute. So you want to color all of them. I am outlining the shingles on the roof. This is kind of a technique I do for brick as well. You're going to see that for the chimney, but I'm outlining each shingle with my dark color, going around it with my mid-tone, and then I'm really saturating the paper with my lightest, and it's going to end up giving us a beautiful blended out roof line there. And then I'm going to do a little bit darker, kind of where the snow is laying on the roof. Just kind of imagine that it's a lot more shaded there. I'm going to even go in and there we go. I like how that just kind of gives it a bit more of that shading. Now for the snow, I like to not leave my snow white. I love it to have a lot of times a little bit of an aqua tint to it. So that's what we're doing. We're going around with our aqua marker. We're blending with a mid-tone marker, and then we're going to go in with a 0 and really blend that out. 0 doesn't have any color in it. If you're using Copics, that would be a blender, the equivalent. And it just kind of softens the edges. I kind of almost consider it a softening agent where it just softens the rough edges of the coloring a bit. And I'm not going to bring the color all the way to the center of the snow. We're actually going to leave that white. Just that little hint of aqua to it, I love. Next, I'm going to go in for my chimney, and I am using that darker red marker. And you can see I am not doing super precise coloring for those bricks. It's more like an illusion of the detail, and then I'm going in with my much lighter red tone and really blending it out. Those darker areas will still kind of maintain and give you that shading, but it's a really quick and easy way to color. Then I'm going to do a nice dark color underneath the snow, and again, use my aquas for that hint. Now, there are coordinating dies for this set. Full disclosure, I did use the scan and cut. I didn't have the dies at the time of filming this, so I did use a scan and cut to cut out everything. Next, I have a domed arch that I have used. This is a Simon Says Stamp product. I love these domed arches. So I am going to take this white die cut panel, and I am blending in Ocean and Royal Pawsitively saturated inks to build my snowy sky. I'm first going in with a lot of the ocean color of ink, really giving it nice coverage. And then we're going to blend in the royal color. I think royal and ocean look so beautiful together. We're going to blend that into the ocean. This is, again, gives us that snowy, wintry feeling that I really, really love. I'm using the Simon Says Stamp blending brushes on the glass magnetic mat, it makes for very easy, quick cleanup. I love just taking the microfiber cloth and wiping it clean. Now, even though I blended this background, I want to mute it a little bit, and to do that, I have taken the same domed arch die cut a piece of vellum, and then I ran it through this glistening snowflake embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. Look at how beautiful the vellum looks over our ink blended panel. I'm going to go ahead and keep the white frame. And I've also die cut another white frame, and I've die cut a Blue Jay frame from some Blue Jay cardstock. I'm going to lay out my images, kind of get an idea of how I think everything's going to go. And then I have another 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel of cardstock that I'm going to die cut this frame from and do kind of an inlay technique. Here's my card base. From that 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel, I am going to place that and glue it onto my card base. And then we're going to glue the frame inside, and then we're going to glue down our ink blended panel and our vellum panel. This helps serve as a guide to help me know exactly where I want this to go as well. I'm just going to take my glue and run this around the edge. If you wanted to, I think it would also be fun to do a shaker design, maybe with a little bit smaller nested domed arch frame, so that you'd have a little more room for adding that foam around the edge. All over in the center, I'm going to put a little bit of glue, or a lot of glue, and I'm going to place my ink blended panel. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue the rooftop to the bottom of my vellum piece. Now, I don't want my vellum covering up any of my images for this particular card design. I sometimes do love putting things back behind the vellum, but in this case, we have spent quite a bit of time coloring, and I want all of that to be on in the forefront, of this card. Once I have this trimmed, you can see I barely had to trim anything off of that rooftop at all. I am going to hide my glue back behind that area and place this nested domed arch right there. Then I'm going to glue the girl in place. And I did glue everything flat because the rooftop is flat, and I really wanted everything to appear to be flush, I suppose. I am going to go ahead and glue my deer in place too. One of my deer is standing next to her, and the other one is standing on top of that chimney, which I thought was kind of cute and funny. We're going to go ahead and glue down the remaining frames. Whenever I'm using liquid glue, I love using those acrylic blocks that I know many of us probably have left in our stash that we don't use much anymore because we're probably using a MISTI. But they come in handy when you need things to be held nice and flat and secure while glue is drying. So I often will break out my Simon Says Stamp acrylic blocks to hold things down and in place. Reverse tweezers are also so handy in holding down images or pieces while the glue is drying. So I originally thought I would stamp and emboss the sentiment, but I wasn't thrilled with how it looked. So I switched it up and stamped my sentiment on some of the leftover white cardstock using Lawn Fawn Lobster ink, and I'm going to use one of my favorite Simon Says Stamp sentiment label dies to die cut this into a sentiment strip that I can pop up along the bottom edge of my card. I actually love the red, and I love how it pulls a little bit of color down into the rooftop of the design. Where most of the color is in the top part of this card panel, I think it adds and provides a wonderful little pop of color down here. We're going to use some of the skinny Simon Says Stamp foam adhesive strips to adhere this in place. Finally, you can see that I have some little gems that I'm going to use to finish embellishing my card. I'm going to use a silver mix, but I think anything would be cute here just to kind of pull out and add a little bit, or pull out a little color and add a little sparkle. In this case, I did use silver, so they're just sparkly. If you ever need help lining up a sentiment, the wonderful T-square rulers from Simon Says Stamp come in so handy. I was able to perfectly line up my greeting just like that. Using the place tool, I am going to pick up my gems. I love to use this with gems with a sticker back and pop those in place, even putting some in the center of the snowflakes up in the sky. I think that the vellum embossed with that embossing, the glistening snowflakes embossing folder, is just the perfect complement to these super sweet images from the Picket fence Dancer Delivers Christmas. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this fun Christmas scene card featuring the Picket Fence STAMPtember 2024 limited edition stamp and die set called Dancer Delivers Christmas. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you in the next video.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.